The announcement crackled over the intercom, startling the passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a situation. Please remain calm." The flight attendants exchanged worried glances in the back of the plane. One of their own had locked herself in the bathroom and refused to come out. The once calm atmosphere of the flight had turned tense. Everyone wondered, what could cause such a drastic action from a seasoned air hostess? Why would an experienced flight attendant, someone like Martha Alba, take such an extreme step? Martha, who had been flying for over 20 years, had seen it all, but this was no ordinary flight. Her sudden disappearance into the bathroom and her refusal to exit were baffling. Her colleagues couldn't understand what had caused this change in her behavior. Just hours before, she had been calm and composed, helping passengers with their luggage and offering reassurance to the nervous flyers. What could have happened in those short hours to change everything? Martha was well known for her reliability. She had always been dependable, known for keeping a cool head under pressure. But this was unlike anything her colleagues had ever seen. They started to wonder, was it a personal issue, a health crisis, or was there something more sinister behind her actions? As the minutes passed, the tension only grew. Martha, usually the picture of professionalism, had now been in the bathroom for over 30 minutes. Her colleagues tried to remain calm, but each passing minute intensified the sense of worry. What could have caused this? The flight attendants were left with more questions than answers. What had driven Martha to lock herself in the bathroom and insist that the plane make an emergency landing? The gravity of the situation was evident. Passengers, who had been blissfully unaware of any issues, started to whisper anxiously. Was something terribly wrong? Jane, one of Martha's fellow flight attendants, knocked gently on the bathroom door. "Martha, are you okay?" she called out. Silence. Jane's mind raced back to the morning briefing, wondering if there had been any clue she missed. Martha had seemed fine, even cheerful, but now there was only silence. What had happened between then and now? Jane's concern only grew as she realized the severity of the situation. The captain's voice came over the intercom, cutting through the tension. "If she doesn't come out soon, we may have to turn the plane around." The mere suggestion of turning the plane around sent a ripple of panic through the cabin. A return to the airport was a last resort, one that would cause disruptions and amplify everyone's fear. The flight attendants exchanged glances, realizing the urgency of the situation. Every second counted now. They had to act quickly. Time was running out. Martha Alba, 45, from a small town in Ohio, had always been a pillar of strength. Her colleagues knew her as reliable, calm, and compassionate. She had worked for the airline straight out of college, driven by a love for travel and a desire to help people. Over the years, she had built a reputation as a consummate professional. She handled difficult situations with grace and efficiency, earning accolades from the airline. But today, something was different. Martha was married to Tom, a college professor, and together they had 2 teenage children, Emily and Jack. Her family meant everything to her, and despite her demanding job, she always made sure to be present for her children's achievements and her husband's career milestones. She was the glue that held her family together, balancing the pressures of travel with a devoted role as a wife and mother. Her colleagues knew about Martha's fears, especially her concern for her family's safety while she was away. Sometimes, the weight of her job and the uncertainty of her travels kept her up at night. The thought of something going wrong during a flight was her greatest fear, though she had always managed to keep it in check. But something had clearly shaken her today. No one understood why she would act this way. Even with her typical anxiety, this sudden shift was a mystery. As the minutes dragged on, Jane tried once again to coax Martha out of the bathroom. "Martha, whatever it is, we can handle it together." But the bathroom door remained firmly locked, and the tension in the cabin was growing. The plane began preparing for an emergency landing, and the situation escalated quickly. The crew knew that something had gone terribly wrong. Jane's thoughts turned to the strange, unsettling sense of dread that had spread through the cabin. Every second felt like an eternity as the plane descended. Then, a passenger, Mr. Roberts, stood up, scribbling a note and slipping it under the bathroom door. "Martha, please tell us what's going on. We're all worried." Mr. Roberts, a frequent flyer, had never seen anything like this before. The entire cabin watched in tense silence, hoping that Martha would... When the note was returned, Martha's message was chilling. "Do not open this door. Tell the captain to prepare for an emergency landing." The gravity of her words sunk in immediately. An emergency landing was now necessary. There was no turning back. The captain quickly initiated procedures for an emergency landing. The crew's hearts raced as the passengers, now aware that something serious was unfolding, began to feel the weight of the situation. What could be so urgent? What was Martha trying to warn them about? Her cryptic message only deepened the mystery. The air was thick with tension. Then, a muffled voice from the bathroom. "Please, I can't leave. You don't understand what's at stake." These words sent a chill through the entire cabin. What could possibly be so critical that Martha couldn't leave the bathroom? Her colleagues, who had always trusted her judgment, now found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about her. The uncertainty was unbearable. The turbulence, which had already begun, intensified, adding to the growing anxiety. The seatbelt sign flashed on, and the plane bucked and jolted, making the passengers uneasy. The crew worked furiously to keep the cabin calm as they descended into an atmosphere thick with dread. What could Martha be hiding? What was she trying to protect them from? The captain addressed the cabin again, his voice calm but strained. "We are diverting to the nearest airport. Please remain seated." The tension continued to build. Everyone could feel it. As the plane began its descent, the turbulence worsened. Passengers gripped their armrests, eyes wide with fear. In the midst of all this chaos, Mr. Roberts heard a faint hissing sound coming from the bathroom. The sound was unlike anything he could identify, but it immediately sent a shiver down his spine. He quickly alerted the crew, who exchanged worried glances. The passengers noticed the change in the crew's demeanor. The tension had escalated from uneasy to full-blown panic. What was going on behind that locked bathroom door? The uncertainty was suffocating. Moments later, Jane heard Martha's muffled voice again. "Please trust me, for everyone's sake." Despite the terror coursing through her, Jane felt a deep sense of trust in Martha's words. They had to trust her. She had always been their reliable, level-headed colleague, but something wasn't right. The plane was descending faster, and the turbulence was at its peak. Then, the captain announced that emergency services would be ready on the ground. Martha's colleagues braced themselves for what lay ahead. Whatever was happening, they had to believe Martha's judgment. The plane finally touched down, and emergency personnel rushed on board, heading straight for the bathroom. The crew stepped aside, allowing the professionals to take over. The passengers, visibly shaken, sat quietly in their seats, anxiously awaiting an explanation. Minutes later, Martha emerged from the bathroom, pale and shaken. She held up a small book cover and explained, "There was an air breach in the toilet. I had to seal it. If I moved, we would have all been in danger." The room fell silent as the weight of Martha's words sank in. She had acted quickly and decisively, preventing a disaster that could have claimed lives. What had seemed like irrational behavior was now understood as heroic. The relief was palpable. The crew quickly helped the passengers deplane as emergency personnel conducted a thorough check of the aircraft. The plane had indeed suffered an air breach, one that could have compromised the integrity of the cabin. The passengers, now safe on the ground, breathed a collective sigh of relief. They were alive, and thanks to Martha, they had avoided a catastrophe. Martha was soon recognized for her bravery, and the media coverage exploded. Her quick thinking and calm under pressure were praised, but the incident raised serious questions about the airline's safety protocols. The investigation into the breach revealed troubling evidence. The airline had been cutting corners, purchasing cheaper planes, and passing them off as state-of-the-art models. These substandard aircraft had put lives at risk. The public's outrage grew as the full scope of the airline's negligence came to light. Martha and her colleagues were lauded for their actions. The incident sparked widespread reforms within the airline industry, including better oversight, more rigorous safety protocols, and transparency. Martha's quick thinking had not only saved lives, but had also led to systemic changes that would prevent such an incident from ever happening again. Her story became a symbol of courage, and she used her newfound platform to advocate for safety reforms in aviation. The legacy of that harrowing flight became a reminder of the importance of integrity, vigilance, and responsibility. As the airline worked to rebuild its reputation, Martha remained a beacon of professionalism, reminding everyone that the safety of passengers was the true priority. If you liked this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories.